In the aftermath of the battle between the Emperor and Horus, the warp has changed. The warp gods have retreated. Using your psychic abilities is not impossible, but is a lot harder. You want that dark magic to work, you're going to have to make many sacrifices to get there. That's the state we examine from Ashes of the Imperium by wraight. Going over the lore we are given. So, welcome friends, and let's begin. We start with two traitor Astartes, both word bearers. They have found a place where they can reach a trickle of energy from the warp. The new arrival, Ardrahasis, reaches out to see what the others saw. He wanted things to be as they had been. The Sons of Lorgar had always been the bravest of the Emperor's creations, because they looked at the universe as it was, not as it might be. On Terra, that dream had faltered. How would things be if that power returned? Would it be the same? And he saw in the wake of the Civil War bastions that had been secure for generations against Xenos predation were now naked and unprotected. So fast, he murmured to himself, the words mingling awkwardly with the ongoing chants. It falls apart so quickly without Horus. The gods had been active. They had been present. You could smell them, taste them, hear them in every act of slaughter. Now their hands had been withdrawn, snatched back, lest he carve the fingers from them, and it made the galaxy a colder place. And the word-bearer saw the warp like the navigators did then. He saw the giant gears and the unquiet eddies, the surge of etheric currents that hurled warships from world to world like leaves caught in a gale. And then after Horus fell, the gears still turned, and the channels still surged, but sluggishly, as if choked with slit. Only here and there could he see flickers of what looked like vigour or violence, plumes and flurries of frantic activity. For so long the entire galaxy had been steeped in blood and fire, so much so that the gods themselves pressed up against reality, like greedy children with their palms flat against the glass. But now, if this vision had any truth to it, that had changed, and then they would talk more. They know the ruinous powers must return in time. What they do now is how long that withdrawal will be. They were almost destroyed. You understand? Almost destroyed. That is the measure of the enemy we fight. He will surely come after us soon, ready to retake his empire of lies, and this time there will be no Horus to oppose him. So they realized to aid the gods of chaos to build back up, they must provoke and goad the enemy to bring out of them the worst, and feed the gods of chaos. They must make a stand where they are, so those loyal to the Imperium will see the danger had not passed, and they say we will force history to repeat, and through the new cycle of strife will the power return, never-ending war, never pausing. It matters little who wins or loses, but they must be allowed to rest. They must never be allowed to halt, to reflect, to consider whether staying their hands would serve them better. They must perpetuate what we started, just as bloodily, without pity or remorse. We achieve this, and the victory we were promised will come, whether it is at our hands or whoever comes next to inherit the living cause. So let's dissect two elements. The traitors will provoke the loyalists, so the war is an ending, and the chaos gods will be allowed to recharge their power. You can argue in this moment and how well the idea might work, but it does work. The fight is going on 10,000 years later in terms of the Materium's time frame, and has no end in sight, and the gods' power is back, and they are active in the universe. And how close did the Emperor come to putting out the Chaos Gods? Recall this line, they were almost destroyed. That's how close the Emperor came to a victory. Now, one thing is, this and the next part are just people's opinions, so there's always that aspect of 40k. Most of the lore you get, even if it's someone you want to believe, it is just people's opinions, but I'm going to go with believing these two elements so I can build upon some theories. So, now building on this, we examine the second passage. A discussion between a traitor Astartes and a demon. This was part of a test by the Astartes to see what was capable. Speaking was an effort, but they were working on this. 100 souls had been sacrificed to bring the demon into this glass-lined chamber, and another soul was killed for every breath the creature took. It was arduous. The product of long rites and ancient cantrips, the kind that had once tripped off the tongue with a little effort, but now were as arduous as wading through thick, deep oil. And all for this little revenant, this malicious sprite, just the lowest of the lowest tier of the infinite pantheon that stretched off into the abyss of eternity. Ardrahasis thinks they existed in a strange, non-temporal state, the demon kind. They could be born at a moment of violence or cruelty in the material world, and from that point onwards, they would always have existed. Similarly, if a demon was extinguished, it would never have existed, so no matter how many scrolls and legends and whispered myths spoke of its deeds. The realm then came from treated time like the physical realm treated water. It could eddy, cascade, linger untouched, or evaporate entirely. As bewildering as the Imperium was to all but the greatest theologians, the Materium was just as maddening to all but the most powerful of the Pantheon's servants, and this little witch thing was far from one of those. So when a demon is killed, then it's undone from its entry of time, or what passes for time in the warp. It seems to vary, and though it might be down in a scroll, it's not there to be summoned. That's very interesting, and by virtue, if the Emperor had defeated the Chaos Gods, then they would have been perma-killed, and their touch removed from all of history perhaps. Next, in the text, the demon says, of the gods, they drew back, they saved themselves, they sank deeper, burrowing down in time and space and forgetfulness. And for those who love the theory, you could say into the deep warp, though of course that is just a theory. But the everlasting realm has no true space, he said, no true time. How then could the gods retreat? Where would they go? The demon licked its lips again, its form guttering for a moment, fading away, then snapping back into reality. What is a god? The organisation of dreams. That which has been brought together can be sundered. A self can dissipate. It can unstitch that which binds it. Then it smiled a wicked, hooked grin. But once it's dissolved, it cannot recombine. That is the trap, so there are no gods. Adrahasis recoiled. That is not true. The demon laughed, and its skinny frame blinked in and out of clarity. True, untrue, I am trying to put these things into words. You know, something has changed. It looked sidelong at him. Your realm cannot repair itself either. Strife is eternal. Yes, the gods are still a part of it. Always were, always are, always will be. Every memory of violence will seek out every recollection of lust, and like dust around a star they will build themselves. But do they have the time? What if the thief wakes first and acts on what he now knows? The demon offers advice on the plans of the word-bearers. Your master understood us. He plans all this. War will do it. The sky and glory of suffering. I see what he labours for. I see 1,000 such places all across your mortal halls. But you must work swiftly. The anger of the thief's sons must not be allowed to cool. Now the demon was slipping away. Its features began to rearrange, to distort, as if twisted by a nearby magnetic source. Its claws dragged from the glass, leaving faint traces of slime. The hour comes swiftly, Adrahasis said. Even now I feel them reaching for us. Then I may see you again very soon, Apostle, said the demon, grinning as it faded away entirely. And in that, as in all things, you should be careful what you wish for. And then it was gone, just a whiff of sulphur behind the glass, a few evaporating patches of clear liquid. Adrahasis remained perfectly still for a moment, while outwards reflecting, half of him was relieved. The old rituals still answered. Another half felt something new, harder to pin down. It wasn't dread exactly, but something close to it. Maybe grief, that another world had briefly been glimpsed, one free of the old laws, but that it had never been real, and in any case everything he believed forced him to work against it, to strangle it at birth. And now it was indeed sliding away, and the old world was shuffling back into space, just as he wanted it to. So we might get some insight there into the fate of the Chaos Gods. It's feared if the Emperor gets up first, he might make them go out forever. And it also says this plan might work to reignite war to fan its flames. But recall the World-Bearer notes this in the original text, that the demon speaks in riddles, and you have to pass them for truth. So things might also not be as it says, is the state of the warp during this moment after the heresy. It's there but also much weaker. It should be interesting in the following books to see how this plays out, and what either side does to get their powers. After all, if the warp is weak, this is shown in the book, so is the power of a Space Marine librarian and a lot of their assets. So let me know what you think to this lore and what you would like to see in the future Skyrim books. I encourage anyone, and if you like this video on 40k, then why not try this one? And if you want a bunch of videos on 40k, there are 2 playlists on the channel. One has everything, one focuses on a pet interest of mine, the Dark Age of Technology. I also have a Trench Crusade playlist, and I cover that and Dune on the channel. There's also a playlist for Dune. Dune, not done it for a while, it's pretty infrequent, but I do try to find new ideas to discuss there when I can. So check them out if those are things you're interested in, and if not, fair enough, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.